to another episode of Horror Movie Night. This week we're talking about 1989's Beyond the Door 3 as picked by Scott. And Scott, I want to know why you picked it, but before anything, I just want to say thank you. This was
Thank you for your good friends.
I mean, early on, this could be the Ghost in the Machine of 2024. I feel like this is the movie that I didn't know existed, that I'm like, man, I will probably rewatch this movie at some point in my life.
I've watched it twice now. Like, I watched it, immediately put it at the top of my list for this year. Then I was like, you know what? I didn't take any notes the first time I watched it. Let's watch it again. It was better the second time. This movie is incredible.
But there's one thing. So first and foremost, I'm going to talk about two different notes that I have written that cover the same basic thing, because I went in fully blind. So one of my notes
is the only way to go in. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Let's give
listeners.
Here's the spoiler
hit up Shudder. Go watch that shit.
Yes, and if you don't have Shudder, I'm pretty sure it's also on fucking Tubi. Oh yeah. Also, you don't have to watch Beyond the Door or Beyond the Door 2, because this movie was produced by the same people that did the Curse movies. So the Curse 2, The Bite, has nothing to do with The Curse, which is actually the first H.P. Lovecraft The Color Out of Space adaptation that we got. The Curse 2, The Curse 3, and The Curse 4, none of them have anything to do with anything.
They just would buy a name and slap it on different movies.
So and for Beyond the Door, the franchise, the original Beyond the Door was a ripoff of The Exorcist. Yep. Beyond the Door 2 was a ripoff of something else, right?
I have never seen the second one.
I've
seen
either.
the first Beyond the Door, and I've seen this one. So.
Okay, all three of them are on Shudder. So if you really want to ruin your day, you can start with Beyond the Door and then make it better by going to 2 and then 3, because it only goes up from Beyond the Door. I've watched it as well. It's terrible.
One of my notes says, holy shit, this is a possessed train movie.
It is.
Which blew my mind. But then a little bit later, I had a note that said, how did this movie get more dull after the train became possessed? Because it really hits a lull shortly after the initial train possession.
It does.
But then it picks up steam
a
little bit later. But yeah, it is insane that it's at like 100. A train gets possessed, and then they slam the brakes for a little bit.
It's because they didn't do enough exposition in the first act. So the second act, the first half of the second act drags ass, I would say. Mm-hmm. But then, by the time you hit the hour mark, shit is just everywhere, and it's ridiculous. But I'll tell you, that's why I mentioned that I watched it twice in the last 6 months or whatever. That lull is more acceptable when you know the crazy shit that's coming after your first watch.
Yeah, I was literally worried that I had seen the peak of the mountain and had like another hour to go. But no, it picked back up again. Kyle, do you know anything about this director? It's a director, Jeff Quitney, is it? Kwitny?
No, I'm not familiar, and I did not do any research before I jumped onto this, because I just finished watching it about 30 minutes ago.
Okay, well apparently
I haven't even started.
Yeah, he apparently made some movie called Iced in the late 80s.
Yeah, he
did.
Was
well received. So what is Iced? I'm not even familiar with this.
Iced is a I haven't watched it. I have it on my just my Tubi list. I don't think it's good enough for the show. If it is good enough for the show, we'll do it next winter, because it's I think it's a ski resort killing movie. The cover of it is somebody wearing like a ski helmet, holding an icicle, I want to say.
Ooh.
It's either an ice. I don't know if it's someone killing people with an icicle, or if I'm kind of creating that story.
They got ski poles on this one.
Okay, ski poles. But it's a ski resort killer movie that I have not watched yet.
I only ask because this guy I've never heard of, but apparently in 1988 he asked James Cameron for advice about making this movie, because he said, James Cameron had directed Piranha 2, The Spawning, and he asked them, like, should I do this movie? And James Cameron said, absolutely do not. But since there was no other paying offers on the table at the time, he just kind of accepted doing it because he
this is a VHS. VHSPS has this, and if they do, it's getting picked up at. You said it's on Tubi? Never mind.
It's on Shudder, so there's already a good rip.
Or no, there's some distribution going on.
Iced.
Iced.
Sorry,
Yes.
I was way.
No,
ahead.
I got excited about Iced.
No,
dude.
But
I really think that it could be a contender. You know?
Yeah. Well, so I want to
I'm
talk
sorry.
about...
It's not on Tubi. It's on archive.org.
Okay, so that means it is a VHS-PS possibility.
For sure. Yeah.
So a few things about the making of this movie that I thought was really funny. So these are all things from the director. They shot with a real steam engine on an active railway line for almost 3 weeks. And he said that we had a steam train at our disposal that we rented from the Yugoslavian government, and we could do whatever we wanted with it. And we had an absolute blast. But the problem was that if you have a scene where a real train is coming down the tracks, then I really need for us to be able to get it in one take, because otherwise we have to back it up to shoot the next take, and that could take up to an hour just for the train to fully back up.
Yeah.
He also said that at the time that they were shooting this, in the area that they were shooting, there was a civil war raging in Siberia right by them. So
my God.
Their filming had to be done at a super quick pace, with the cast and crew often working for 18-hour days. And because of the instability of the country, a lot of the laborers on the crew were paid as little as $1 each day.
Yeah.
To
day.
To just get this done.
Whoa.
But the thing is that most of them just stood there. They didn't even have to speak English. It was probably a cushy fucking job.
Probably. And then the last thing that he has here, and then we'll really dive into the movie. But he goes, the special effects of the gory deaths and the train leaving the rails were shot in Rome by a completely separate unit, and he was not present for the effects shooting and expressed extreme disappointment in their execution.
I thought that the train off the tracks was so hilariously bad that it made it good.
Yeah, I've seen that episode of Thomas before.
Yeah.
I know that I've seen.
Your kid
I've been
loves
watching lots of Thomas. My kid loves this version of
it's
Beyond
both
the
of them. It's
Door
the
3.
train prop, and at the end of the movie, the
plane.
airplane prop are both hilariously low budget.
Yeah.
Like,
so if you put them in black and white, it would make sense, right?
Yeah,
it would be like, yes, RKO did this, and I remember.
The giant mantis, or what's it called?
I mean, it literally reminds me of Robot Monster. You can actually see strings on the plane when they're doing like the spaceship. It's
such a fun dichotomy though in this movie, because you do have like, if they did have this big steam engine that they have these big sweeping like overview shots of. They remind me of
shot beautifully at times.
Was it Jaws 2 that we watched recently? There was like over the boat, like these huge like amazing shots of the actual vessel.
They had an aerial crew for this fucking movie. Like, and the stunts are sick in that third act when like they're on top of the coal car and everything. I mean, like,
it was awesome. Yeah, and then the derailment. Just move those pebbles with that that miniature train track.
I loved it. I personally, it didn't take me out of the film at all.
No. I think it enhanced the movie. Honestly,
this movie is All the Rage by Abomination. So I couldn't find one that matched. But let me just point out that this one has little Timmy Capello playing the saxophone on the TV, on the can art.
I love that.
And you know what else Tim Capello loves? He loves the color purple, which I have my very last Southern Tier Warlock, because the bad guy, who I forgot his name, is a Warlock. And I had a really hard time finding a train beer for this, so I went with my very last Warlock until probably September. So,
I'm actually
cheers
mad
to
at
you,
myself
Run Amok Train.
Did that. Amok Train, never come back. I almost opened the Warlock too, and I'm actually very upset because I have a Warlock, and I was like, if I needed to fall back, I would have just done that. Even though this beer doesn't match, the Warlock match is far better. But it just, I've never seen this can art, and
it would have been that magic moment where you both suddenly picked the same drink.
Dude, we've been waiting so long for that.
Yeah,
to
I know, and I feel like I botched the operation.
Would that be the
closer.
moment where this whole segment implodes, and you're just like, well, it's kind of like when Brian had to do the Beetlejuice thing for the movie Beetlejuice, and it was just like, okay, well, that that was officially a snake eating its own tail. So like,
if Kyle and I pick the same beer, we have to never drink again. So Kyle,
yes, that's how we. Yeah, that's how we
both
stop
just
drinking.
go straight sober from that point on.
Yeah,
California sober.
Yeah,
California sober for sure, bro.
So the movie, movie starts off as many horror films that involve possession do, with a scene in the past. Before we get the name of my favorite magazine across the bottom of the screen, Los Angeles Today.
Today. Now. Actively. Oh, my God. That's what I name my newspaper. Los Angeles. The World. Actively.
Yeah. So one of the things that I wrote down, and I feel bad that I wrote down a timestamp like I'm Mr. Skin here or something, but I did write 3.5 minutes for a gratuitous boob shot of a adult playing a teenage girl that feels weird, specifically because she's acting like she's more than 18.
Yeah.
And she's like in the shower yelling at her mom, and she's like, I can pack myself.
Okay, so here's the thing about the shower scene. This may be the first shower scene in HMN history to actually move the plot along.
Yes.
It didn't have to be so gratuitous on her breasts. And also, the size of her demonic birthmark is ridiculous.
It's up to her boob. It's from her
literally
navel
like
to
an
her
underbust
boob.
tattoo.
It looks like a Jinko Jeans flame coming all the way up her stomach.
I was going to say,
insane.
like, it looks like she wanted to get a Godsmack logo tattooed on her, and they got over ambitious on the first flame, and then we're like, we can't fit this all on you. I'm sorry.
Let's take a trip to the moon, baby. I love that she brought her entire towel into the shower to cover up instead of just moving the curtain.
Yeah.
She brought her entire dry towel.
Does she have a second towel?
No.
Yeah.
Also, her mom
she might
is
have
probably
a second hair towel.
It's not like, I don't know. Is this terrible of me to think? But like, wouldn't it be worse for your dad to see your boobs?
Do you want your dad or your mom to see your dick? She gets on this school trip. They're going away to this country.
How does everybody on the school trip know about her naked body? If her mom she's like, Mom, don't look at my naked body. And her friends are like, they get the amulets or whatever. And they're like, the one girl's like, it looks just like so-and-so's, birthmark. And she's like, mortified.
Swim class maybe. But
well, Scott, again, I was going to say, we've seen that it is literally the entirety of her body. So if she's ever not had a shirt all the way on, they've been like, what the fuck is up with your tummy right now?
Yeah, no wonder you're such a pariah at school.
Yeah. Which this is like a thing that blows me away now as an adult that maybe made way more sense when I was in high school. But like 80s and 90s teens, when it comes to the concept of virginity, like they're on this train and the guy's like, yes, they do a virgin sacrifice. And they're like, well, there's only one virgin I know. And it's like, oh, really? That's it? You've only known one virgin your entire life, you fucking ladies, man?
I think that was a boast more than the truth. So I don't know, but I think that they just wanted to find. Also, why is it like? I can see why in 80s horror, a guy would be, dressed down, for lack of a better term, for being a virgin, because they're like, oh, you can't get any. But with a girl, it's like, oh, you're wouldn't that be like the chase? Like dudes are like, oh, she's a virgin, I want to like deflower her. I mean, I'm just talking in the concept of 80s misogyny in horror movies. It doesn't seem like something that the entire class, and I put class in very loose quotes because it's like 8 people. I don't see why that's like something that they would be making fun of.
It doesn't make any sense.
The main girl for.
But we did skip over one entirely too important detail, which is Beverly's mom.
You mean Final Destination?
Leaving the airport gets Scott. If I wasn't sure that you picked this movie, the amount of head trauma kills that show up in this film, it's like 8.
It was so unexpected, Like
that's
I know
what makes
that,
it
like,
good.
I know
that's
we're
what
kind
makes
of
it Final
dealing with
Destination.
Like an Italian-esque production, even though it's a lot of Yugoslavian people. But like, I was just I didn't expect it that much, and there was a ton of head trauma. And there was decapitations, there was peels, there was bugs, there was.
Oh, I love the bug.
I'm fairly confident that they had to have just kept reusing the same head as much as they could, just for like. So the mom's decapitation is wild, right? Because like you said, Final Destination, the truck in front of the taxi or whatever that she's in slams on the brakes. Pole goes through the window of the taxi cab, misses the driver, and then it is a close-up shot of her head fully snapping off of the rest of her body.
It doesn't come fully off, which is actually even more horrifying for me. Like it's still sort of on partially to her spine, but the rest of it's just torn.
They had one chance to get that right, by the way. They definitely did not do it twice. And then they're like, oh, it's close enough. I bet that they really wanted it to go through the face, but it just went through the neck, and they're like, okay.
That's all we can do. Like, what else can we do?
They had a lot of money for this, but they didn't have enough money to do any of these scenes twice.
No. So they get to the place where they're supposed to see this ritual, and they immediately get locked into this log
They get locked into separate log cabins.
And they start burning.
That's what I love. Yeah, and I love the one guy who's like... I actually took a note about him. First of all, the old guy in the Serbian village is creepy, but at least he's got a dog in his coat, and I think that makes him not so bad. Also, before...
He's a gentle giant.
Yeah, well, he's not even a giant. He's probably shorter than me.
He's not even giant. He's very small.
But that's a cute fucking dog, and I definitely screenshot that. Anyway, so... The person that we need to talk about before we talk about them trying to burn everybody but Bethany.
Beverly.
Man, I'm close. They are trying to burn all of her friends alive. And this movie shows you the greatest character. Also, for the patrons, Kyle's background. Old lady soup girl. She loves soup. She is so stoked about soup.
Jumps out inside the shack behind Beverly like it's straight out of Evil Dead. Like I
love her.
Yes.
It is super Sam Raimi-esque how that moment happens.
I have to know if that woman was just one of those extras that got paid $1 a day, or if and didn't speak a lick of English, or if she was like a legitimate actor and they were like, okay, you're gonna take your teeth out for this role, and she was like, okay, because like that woman, I just need to know more about her. She is like the most interesting bit character in an HMN movie in a long fucking time, because I just have so many questions.
Like, which is crazy because she truly is a bit character. Like she doesn't, and that's the weird thing about the setup of this too.
At the very
she does speak, but like, you know, we're talking about all of these people almost burning in an entire village, and that seems like that's the climax of the movie, right?
And it's fucking crazy.
It is
but Eli is
early on.
Is Eli the only one who burns alive?
He's the only one. Everybody survives.
Yeah,
it's a very ineffective death trap by this village.
Yeah, they just kicked out a couple pieces of wood, like a couple boards, and they all got out. I don't know. I don't know what they were expecting.
Well, so they all get out of the shacks, but this leads to a couple favorite things of mine. First, you get the one actress that just eats shit while she's trying to jump on the train. Hilarious. Then this clumsy ass Melanie falls again while trying to get onto the side of the train, which leads to her idiot boyfriend jumping off the train and instantly breaking his leg.
Yeah.
Like the second he gets out of the train.
Yeah.
Then we kind of like forget that these characters exist for a while, and then we were talking about the train derailing. I need to talk about this train derailment scene because it is comedic brilliance. Beyond the fact that the train is like a children's toy coming off the tracks. It cuts through the swamp. The radio becomes possessed and is playing the most cartoonish, over-the-top opera music as all this is happening. And then it's literally they're like Tom Sawyer in it through the swamp on like a little like homemade raft. And they're like, hey, what's that sound? Cut to train cutting through the swamp, and then just a shot of a decapitated head flying in the air.
Yeah. But before
it skips like 10 steps. Like
but you're even missing some other really wild kills, like the
there's
the conductor getting
smushed
by the cow catcher, and then the one guy getting sucked into the fire.
Everybody, the conductor gets squished. The mechanic gets ran over, and his head just gets fully ripped off of his body by the front of the train, and just keeps dragging it across the tracks. And then the other guy gets sucked into the flames. There's also my sort of favorite character, which is when the conductor is trying to talk to them, and he speaks a little bit of English, and he takes them to a side room, and there's just like a dude up in there playing some Zelda-ass music on his
He's
flute
got an ocarina.
Right. And I thought we were going to one and done that character. Nope. I thought that was just one of those sort of like, you pop him in here, he's a little interesting, but he's like not even a red herring, just like they forgot that they did that scene the next week.
I wish they would have named that character Adonis, because when he fucks Beverly and saves her from an eternity of being Satan's bride, he's got like a waxed chest. I expected him to be like riding a horse with his dick out like that dude in...
He was in an Old Spice commercial later on, for sure. I watched the movie, but anybody who's listening who has not watched this movie and is just catching these of like...
little one-offs.
It sounds like we're talking about 10 different movies.
It
but
is
God
10
bless
movies.
It.
That's the point.
It's
we haven't even
so
talked about the
fantastic.
female mercenary.
Oh my God, right.
I'm forgetting things because you just said that. I'm like, is Scott just making up shit now to confuse the audience?
No, remember there's that woman who is like, she speaks in the third person a bunch. She speaks about herself in the third person, and she's got soot on her face because she like talks about how she goes on the train once a month and then takes money out of the envelopes that the people from the city send to the people in the country. But then she's like a dynamite expert, and so she's trying to help them blow up the fucking train. And then it's like, it's okay. And then she dies, and literally the only person that lives is Beverly. They take her to the true destination, which is the town, like the village of the first scene.
There's at least one more scene we need to talk about before we get to this last scene in the village, which is as some of her friends are dying in the train, we get this insane like ripping a face apart scene in one of the train seats where they're like just peeling layers of their skin off like an onion.
Are you talking about the maggot face being
Yes.
So good. It makes no sense. There's no point in that, but it's great. I love it.
But the maggots being glued or whatever they were to her face and actually like spinning and like they were gross.
And I think that the guy that got the mouth that was kissing her and got the mouth full of maggots, I think he actually spit out real maggots, which like you couldn't pay me. I mean, like I feed maggots to my pet frog basically. Like I feed wax worms to him. I wouldn't put those in my mouth. I wouldn't put 20 of those in my mouth. What the fuck?
No.
Listen,
we'll talk about
I wouldn't
more
even
next
have the
week
balls
of shit
to pull.
I would not do for a movie. So yes, we get to this town. This is where Soup Lady screams, "She's not a virgin!" And then it just turns into Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like it's just like face melts. It's amazing.
But we would be remiss to tell the listener, to ignore telling the listeners that you actually see the devil in it. And I love the look of it. It's goopy. It's very the Slayer-esque. So, I mean, like, I definitely have a type.
You have a Satan type.
Yeah. Like,
I love that for you.
I'm so sad that we don't get goopy monsters anymore because of CGI. You know, like, we'll get bloody monsters. We'll get... Yeah, but like, what is the last good creature feature that had like goopy fucking monsters in it? I can't tell you because nothing's coming to mind.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
It's not a rhetorical question. Right. It's a legitimate question. So listeners, if you have a goopy monster movie from the last 5 years, tell me.
I'll tell you what, if there is one, it's probably some low budget shit that was on like Shudder or like that we've never heard of, because it's definitely not like a big box office release. You know what I mean? Like that's just not a thing that gets put in theaters and gets all the promo anymore.
The Demon's Rook which I don't know if you have ever talked about it or watched it on this. It's on Tubi. It's 2013, and it's a low-budget thing, but it has some demons and creatures that you might dig, Scott. Maybe not as goopy, because I think it's still a little dry. It's low budget, and I think 2013, yes.
Yeah, you said 2023. I was like, damn, that's recent.
Oh, no, 2013, which, I mean, I guess, dude, now, it's over 10 years old, but...
Was it goopy in The Void? I feel like that was a goopy
Even then,
movie.
that's still like 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it was 9. I think it was 2015. Yeah. I remember being so stoked, but... I mean, and
it's not the way it used to be, man.
No, and let's ignore anything from the VHS series because that's different. Get it.
They're
but I'm talking full-length movie with goopy monsters. I cannot think of one.
No, I don't think there has been. And if it is like those throwback things. Like Heebie-Jeebie TV has some like goopy shit in it, but that's like a weird pseudo-comedy anthology film. It's not like a feature-length movie based on one goopy-ass creature that you're waiting to show up. Anyway, we get out of the village. She's a virgin, so the sacrifice...
No, she's not a virgin.
Sorry, she's not a virgin, so the whole ritual falls to shit. Raiders of the Lost Ark ending, everyone melts, everything's fine. She's on a plane, she falls asleep. The devil's hand bursts through the glass in the plane and pulls her out of the window, a la the end of the first Nightmare on Elm Street. Wakes up, end of the movie.
Still doesn't know her mom died, by the way.
No. I mean, I'm sure she probably had a sneaking suspicion at this point because she saw the guy get a letter and crumple it up and throw it away.
Yeah,
so she must be like, all right, something happened. And now that all of her friends are dead, she might be like, I bet my mom probably died.
He was like, it's fine. It's just a political ad. Yugoslavia's going through it right now.
It's just,
They're just dropping leaflets talking
about
they left
it. They were supposed to put it in my door.
Take out menu.
Yeah, they're supposed to put it beyond my door.
Nice. Oh, man, that's good.
91 Donkey Lane is a magical apartment complex that contains immense power, but lacks intelligent inhabitants.
What is happening?
I'm getting texts.
Why are we getting a lot of texts?
People found out what we did.
Oh, dividing Mike Myers into an infinite amount of tiny Mike Myers?
Listen to 91 Donkey Lane for free on Spotify or your favorite podcasting app. More at 91donkeylane.com. See you there, you donkeys.
All right. Well, Scott, you picked this, so how about we talk about a double feature with you?
So I have two. I'm going to tell you the one that I think is funnier, but not necessarily as good of a double feature. And then after you guys go, I'll tell you the one that I would actually pick because I think it'd be a really fun night. I'm going to go with Midsommar because that movie is the same plot. Also, people burning alive. And this movie is folk horror in the first act and then the second half of the last act. So it feels
works.
Comparable.
All right. How about you, Kyle?
I'm choosing Night Train to Terror. It also has a train. It has miniatures. It has a little bit of goop. And it's at least 4 different stories. It's three shorts and a wraparound. So we kind of have the same thing going here with Beyond the Door 3. So that's my double feature.
All right, and Scott said it earlier, but I'm going to go with another movie that this company threw the title over top of just to sell tickets. I'm going to watch The Curse 2: The Bite, man. That movie fucking
also
rips.
Also gooey. Very goopy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So much KY used in that. Now, if I was really picking a movie that I wanted to, if I was, this would be a great night. If I was actually doing this as a true double feature, I'd watch Prince of Darkness, and then I would watch Beyond the Door 3 because they're both very gooey. They're both they have the kind of like the satanic end of the world, doomy dread kind of feeling to them.
Vibe, yeah.
And I have a more recent appreciation for Prince of Darkness because I used to hate that movie, and now I just think that it's silly fun. So
yeah. No, it's a good time. Well, we got to jump real quick into a newer segment called What's Going On? There's not much going on right now. I mean, Creature Feature Weekend is quickly approaching. It's just a few months away, so stay tuned for us to be there. But in the meantime, hit up our website, hmnpodcast.com, and buy yourself a t-shirt. Buy yourself some cool swag. Hit up the Patreon, patreon.com/HMNpodcast. And, hear all the bonus chats that we do, watch the video version of the podcast, get early episodes, all of that good stuff. And then lastly, go on our Facebook or social media or Instagram, whatever, and find us there. We're on TikTok, all of it. HMN Podcast is basically our abbreviation on everything. So find us, hang out with us, and love us, please. We're very lonely boys. All right, Scott, what did you watch, listen to, read, etc. this week that you want to talk about?
So I am not done with it. I gifted Megan a great book called Bunny by Mona Awad. I may be saying her name wrong, but it is all over Book Talk. All of the Book Talk girlies love it. It's also sort of horror, so it came into my sphere as well. I'm about halfway through it. Megan read it first, and she was like cackling, and then she was gasping, and she was like, "Holy shit, what the fuck is going on?" It's incredibly weird. It's very hard to explain, but let me just say that from what I know so far in it, it's very much Mean Girls, Heathers, and Alice in Wonderland put into a blender with a little bit of that modern exploitation. Kyle, what would you consider the subgenre of a short like Every Time We Go Get Ice Cream Your Head Fucking Explodes? What is it called?
Oh, I guess you can call it like a micro short. Though admittedly, I don't think that.
But that not necessarily that the
not like a filmmaking genre. You mean like
aesthetic of it?
The aesthetic, whatever that aesthetic is. Like, it's kind of like it's got a little bit of the John Dice at the end, like over the topness to it, but it's also very.
It's almost like bubblegum horror, honestly. It's almost like pop horror,
Honestly,
almost.
I feel like everything you're talking about aesthetically, we were texting about it, looks like that Lady Frankenstein movie that's coming out by Diablo.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, very, like, it's like all of the aesthetic.
Lisa Frankenstein.
Lisa Frankenstein, yeah. It's all the aesthetic of, like, a Tim Burton 90s romance. Like, think of like how the town scenes in Edward Scissorhands look, where it's like over the top colors.
I wonder if there's a term for it.
There has to be some term for that aesthetic.
It feels very like later John Waters-y to me as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, although how vile his stuff is, but how like colorful it is simultaneously in his like 80s and 90s films.
Yeah, I can see Serial Mom kind of fitting into it. It's it's like very off kilter. It's
a lot of time. It also hinges on like a weird. The aesthetic that you're thinking of, I always feel like it hinges on this weird 1950s retro feeling, even if it's not in the 50s. It's shot to feel very like Leave It to Beaver,
yes, exactly.
Oh, so it's sort of like dealing with the uncanny. It's sort of like a pop uncanny thing.
Yeah. And Fido, I think, falls in that same category too. Fido, it's very 1950s, bright colors, but it's a heartwarming story about a boy and his zombie pet.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's nearly as heartwarming as Fido. It's definitely twisted, and I'm loving it. It's a very interesting read. I'll probably finish it in a day or two because I'm just burning through this book. I stayed up an hour later than usual last night to read it. I was like, oh, just one more chapter. So it's definitely a page turner. Very, very fun. Highly recommend it. Bunny by Mona Awad is her last name. Awad, I believe.
Adding that to my Goodreads wish list.
Hey, Matt, that should have been in your What's Going On. Didn't you like start your Goodreads? Because you can find Matt on Letterboxd and Goodreads now, by the way.
Yeah, I finally did get a Letterboxd. That is very true. I won't say anything fully just yet, but I'm sure that by the time this episode is coming out, I might already be promoting yet another podcast that I'm working on.
Good God,
that ties strictly with the world of YA novels. So,
cool.
And it may or may not be hosted by someone who's been on this show before. You know, by deductive skills, you should probably crack that code. But anyway,
Brian's coming back.
Brian's back, baby. No,
Matt has told me that Brian can't read, so I'm
the Kelly brothers reading books together. Oh, Matt reads to Brian.
It's very sweet. Brian. It takes us back to when we shared a bedroom. I will say what I watched this week. I'll do it very quickly. There was a show on Paramount Plus that I finally checked out, and now it's also on Netflix, and it apparently is doing really well on Netflix. If you're into the combination of teen drama and spooky ooky, School Spirits, I found very fun. Show starts off with a girl wandering the hallways at school. No one is acknowledging her or talking to her, and she doesn't understand what's going on. And she walks into a school assembly, and the school assembly is to raise awareness that she is a missing person and that people are looking for her. And she turns around and meets a bunch of other people who can see her, and they're all ghosts that have died inside the school over the last 50 years. And all of them have vivid memories of how they died, so the fact that she doesn't remember is weird. And it turns into this little murder mystery of her trying to figure out who killed her and hid her body, so that she can get closure. And it takes some fun twists and turns. It's 8-hour-long episodes, so it was a pretty quick breeze through watch. Certainly not for everybody, but if you're one of those people who was really into I'm about to name shows that I weren't that into, but if you're really into shows in the vein of a Riverdale or a Sabrina the Teenage Witch, you will absolutely like this show. And then for me, I enjoyed it. I'm excited that the second season is coming, but it's not it didn't make my 10 favorite shows of last year at all. But I think that listeners of the show will enjoy it enough. So, Kyle, take us home.
I watched Saltburn.
Oh, so did I.
I saw Saltburn. I've not seen Promising Young Woman, and I think that they're just by nature of the beast and also maybe inherent sexism in the film industry, heard of it. There might be some polarizing views about Saltburn due to
weird
Promising Young Woman existing. However, for me, spoiler-free and just sort of an honest, I enjoyed my viewing of it. I think that, there might be some story elements that were sort of left undone in a sloppier way than I would have liked, but also I liked the way it was shot. I liked that it takes place in 2006, and I was able to relate to that. It felt like Gossip Girl.
These movies are happening
now. I feel like an old fart.
So old, dude. It's like them making The Wedding Singer when I was in high school. What the fuck?
Yeah. Yes. Right. So I actually my Letterboxd review was that somebody stole my iPod from college, and the music supervisor stole my iPod from college and made a movie and helped make a movie. It's everything. And I thought that I really liked the performances. I think that if you are a really big cinephile, there are other films that deal with those tones and those concepts a lot better, but also at the same time, I don't think that Saltburn was necessarily made for that demographic, or
it's not.
I think that it's a great introductory level into some darker shit that could exist, and I had a lot of fun watching it.
Let me ask you a question, specifically Kyle, but I think Scott would also have some input on this. So I want to watch it. I'm excited to watch it. It's not I'm I'm afraid to watch it. But is it a more the vibe that I'm getting is it seems like people are comparing it a lot to Larry Clark and Harmony Korine type movies, which I can't stand. But is it a more palpable concept that they're
I expected this movie to be very gross, very uncomfortable. It is so fucking vanilla compared to the shit that TikTok was telling me.
Yes.
I think that it's a very, very accessible film. I think that the people that were shocked by the stuff that happened in it I think that that's what Kyle is getting at, is that it's not edgy cinema per se.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was the issue for a lot of people. Not the issue, but more of the push to see Saltburn was
it's so excessive. It's so
yeah. I didn't know that was.
I was very underwhelmed.
I like these.
The three scenes
I like Barry Keoghan.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess so. As the person who hasn't seen the movie, so of course my opinion matters the most. But I think that the flip side is I'm referencing kids, right? But in my mind, it's for Scott and I's generation, kids was this kind of really grody, gross, weird movie. But I'm sure that everybody who was 10 years older than us was like, have you watched any of the movies from like the 70s and 80s that are like, I think that it's just, there's always that generation where this is their movie that's showing like showing whatever that is like uncomfortable. For them, they feel like, because I remember dating a person who was younger than me, and their favorite movie was 13, and how much 13 was like this fucked up, very realistic version of their life. And I watched it and I was like, this is bullshit. This is just like a more obnoxious kids. There's always going to be a movie that for the generation that identifies with the age of the characters feels like it's overwhelming. And for the people who've grown up watching that type of stuff, it's like, this isn't that bad.
Here's a counterpoint to your counterpoint. The movie that it wasn't kids for me, it was Trainspotting. And Trainspotting is still, in my opinion, a much more extreme film than Saltburn. I think that Saltburn is, as Kyle said, and as I support, it's kind of an introductory. It's kind of like pop culture's introduction into a bit grittier style of dark drama, dark comedy. I think that we've kind of gotten away from dark comedies for a while, like black comedy, like really dark shit that like the late 90s had a lot of that. And I think that we went 20 years without a whole lot of that, which is fine. I'm not like negging on anybody who was like, holy shit, Saltburn blew me away. It was so transgressive.
No.
I just was expecting to be very grossed out because I was told about the 3 specific scenes, and I was like, And the people that were shocked by some of those scenes are people my age or close to my age, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that you watched some fucked up shit. I'm surprised that you were, like, I don't know. I mean, like, again, I'm not shaming anybody for their reaction to the movie. I'm glad that the movie gets a reaction out of people. For me, I'm not the target demographic in any way, shape, or form for that film. I watched it because Megan wanted to watch it. I thought that it was visually very well done. I think that the cinematography is great. I think that the plot is interesting. I saw things coming a little bit ahead of time, which is fine. I think it's a very well put together movie, but the plot holes bug the shit out of me. And it's fine. There's a really big plot hole at the very end, and I'm like, come on. Especially for Promising Young Woman being a much tighter script. The plot, the story, everything felt like it was baked in, and this felt a little bit more rushed. Again, still a very good movie.
Yeah. Well, speaking of a movie that felt very thrown together and filled with plot holes, Beyond the Door 3. So we will be back next week with
You could have just said very great. That would have been an appropriate.
Yeah, that's true. You could have said great 3 times.
Yeah, the
Beyond the Door 3.
We'll be back next week with a movie that honestly, stylistically, feels like a double feature in a lot of ways, but a way worse double feature. Sorry, Kyle, who picked it. We'll be back next week, so tune in and find out what that movie is.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.